Today we are going to talk about a wrist drop, which is primarily caused by radial nerve lesion. But before we go into this, we need to learn the origin of the radial nerve. The radial nerve arises from the C7 root and is part of the middle trunk. Then it forms the posterior cord, and we have the terminal nerve over here, which is the radial nerve. And therefore our interest over here is the radial nerve. The radial nerve traverses the axilla, runs behind the humerus, in the spiral groove, then to the elbow, finally to innervate finger extensors and wrist extensors. So now let's try to localize a wrist drop. If you have a wrist drop or a finger drop with intact sensation, that means the lesion is in the forearm, and therefore the posterior interosseous nerve is involved. This is a branch of the radial nerve which is found in the forearm. If you have wrist drop and sensory loss over the dorsum of the hand, therefore the lesion is in the spiral groove. So over here the important point is hyposthesia on the dorsum of the hand and the forearm. The third one, if you have wrist drop, sensory loss, and now you have weakness of elbow extension over here, that means your triceps are involved, and therefore the lesion is above the spiral groove, and now the lesion is in the axilla. The fourth one, if you have wrist drop, sensory loss, elbow extension weakness, and now there is weakness of abduction of the arm over here, therefore the lesion is in the posterior cord of the brachial plexus, because abduction of the arm weakness signifies that the lesion involves the axillary nerve, and therefore you should be able to localize to the posterior cord. If you have wrist drop, sensory loss, elbow extension weakness, abduction weakness, and now you have weakness of the wrist flexors and pronator weakness, these are actually muscles involved in the median innervation, and therefore you should start thinking about C7 radiculopathy. One final point, because Wallerian degeneration is not fully established before day 7, nerve conduction study may not reveal true abnormalities early on.